have this side of me that can be very revengeful. The work that we do in the Men Creating Peace program, and it comes from the Man Alive tradition, is that in the work, the very early stages of the work, we name our hitman, our violent side, our abusive side, and words that describe how we become when we become abusive. And mine is the justified, vengeful equalizer. So it's he's mean. He gets revenge. If you mess with me, I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to hurt you. So and I get biblical, right? It's an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You're going to feel the pain that you inflicted on me, and sometimes you're going to feel it worse. And that hitman side of me, that justified, vengeful equalizer, has gotten me into a lot of trouble.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Devon Gaster. He's a co-founder and executive director of Men Creating Peace. Devon has been working for 20 plus years with men around redeeming their own well-being and selves after potentially harmful behaviors, domestic violence, other types of violence. One of the things I really am excited about this conversation that you're going to hear is some important conversations around where do we go when we've created harm? How do we begin to reverse those things that we've learned in our lives, maybe sometimes after it may be seemingly too late? Where do you go when you've caused harm and now you're trying to redeem yourself, not only just for the people you harmed by saying maybe I'm sorry or making amends there, but for your own self? You know, there's a concept that you're going to hear in this conversation that I'm fascinated by, and that I'm really excited that you're going to get to hear Devon talk about it. He talks about this concept of the male role belief system. The male role belief system. It's a system that we've designed for ourselves of what our role is as a men. And different cultures have different roles for men to play. But there's a time when our male role belief system gets threatened. That means threaten us who we think our authentic selves are supposed to be. And then shows up the hitman. And the hitman is the part of ourselves that justifies any action that it takes to get us back to not only being our authentic self. It's like it's shaped by the gender norms, and a hitman is protecting us. Like, so we jump into action. And you're going to hear Devon talk about his. I'm still trying to name mine. I don't want to steal Devon's hitman name, but Devon calls his hitman the justified, vengeful equalizer. And I resonate with that. And I'm working on creating the name for my own hitman when I feel threatened and I feel under attack of my male role belief system. I hope we can really take in this conversation. I think this conversation probably should be shared with everyone you know who you've seen maybe get taken over by their emotions. Maybe you know their hitman more than you know their real authentic self, because they're maybe always in hitman mode, always ready to protect their own masculinity or their own identity. I'm super excited about this conversation, and I'm super excited that Devon is going to hopefully do some work with Ever Forward and help train some of our young men. I think the more our young men can learn about how emotions work and how when we get threatened in some ways, maybe not physically threatened, but just emotionally threatened, how we may lash back out. Oh, man. We make our mask together and we have this conversation. So I really hope that you not only enjoy this conversation, but that you share it with somebody who you think can benefit. I am excited to continue helping young people, definitely in our community, young men, learn about how to show up as more their authentic self, which is not in a box around what people have said we have to act like and be like. And so today's conversation with Devon Gaster, I hope you will really enjoy it. If you have a major mask, you can do that at 100kmasks.com. And if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, share this episode with someone. I really think that it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. Take care. Thank you for being a listener to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. We look forward to hearing you soon. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you joined us. Today's guest is Devon Gaster. I got connected through Devon through a really good friend, brother, cousin of mine, and he attended one of our Ever Forward men's workshops. And we just made a really impactful connection. And I'm really excited about having him on the show today. So, Devon, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast.
Thank you, Shanti. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really am excited about being able to share a little bit about this work that I do, and also to work with you and the work that you do.
Well, man, let's start there. Will you tell folks about the work you do? Tell us about a little bit about yourself. I like the guests to share their story as much as they're able in this moment, and then we'll jump into the work.
Okay. So I'm currently I'm the executive director and founder of a program called Men Creating Peace here in Oakland, California. And we are a program that's been in existence for 14 years. And we work with men who have issues with abusive behaviors, anger, and intimate partner violence. So the majority of our clients come to us from the courts or probation or from the criminal justice system. And then we also have a number of clients that are self-referred, who hear about us through our website or through graduates or other folks in the community that have heard about our work. And the program is very unique. We're not about shaming or judging or painting everyone in the same brush. The program is really about forgiveness and really about healing and healing families and trying to share information about what we've gathered and the work that we've done over the years to help these men to change their lives. The program doesn't work. These batters treatment programs don't work. Anger management programs don't work. The men that go through the programs have to work the program themselves. They have to internalize the information and put those tools to work, or it's not going to change their, not going to have any positive effect. So we tell them that right off the bat, right? It's like, okay, so you're here, you've been sent here, or you're here because you've got some issues with your anger or your abusive behavior. So the way this works is you be accountable. In the first class, we ask them to be accountable for, a story that they have chosen, to be abusive around. It could be the story that got them into jail, or it could be the story that brought them to a place of realization that they need help. They share that story on the first night, and the men welcome them into the program, just like you're welcoming someone into their living room. And again, they start to share a little bit of information with the new man and tell them about some of the things that are happening for them, or maybe some of the things that are, changing in their lives. And then at the end of the program, we ask if they're willing to make some agreements and if they'd like to join the class. So it's all about choice, really. The first class is always free. There's no pressure for the man to join. There's no cost involved. They can just come and check it out, see what they think, ask questions of the other participants, ask questions of the facilitator, and then make the decision themselves. If they want to think about it, that's fine. If they want to talk to me further about it, that's also fine. But if they want to join, we ask them then to make some agreements with the other men in the class so that everyone is on the same page and they know what they're getting into. This is not a parenting class. This is not an AA class or an NA class. It's a class for men who agree that they have an issue with their abusive behavior and that they want to stop that abuse. So that's where we start. That's where we begin. My story goes back 24 years, 25 years. I was going through a divorce with my first wife, and I committed domestic violence to my wife. I put her in the hospital due to the injuries that I perpetrated. And she went to the emergency room at Kaiser in San Francisco, and they called the police. And the police came and arrested me in front of our 8-year-old daughter at the time, and in front of all our neighbors, and took me away to jail. And that's how it started, sitting in the back of a police car for the first time, and then going to jail and sitting in a jail cell for the first time. It was my bottom. It was definitely a place where I never thought I'd be. And I didn't realize until I got into the system and started attending classes that I had been violent all my life, that I had been abusive all my life. In every one of my relationships, in my family life, in my friendships, in the business I owned. At the time, I was a florist in San Francisco. I had my own business, and I was being abusive to my employees. I was being abusive to the people around me, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize it. I didn't understand it. Maybe I knew it on a certain level, but I wasn't conscious of it. And going to the classes, I went to a program called Man Alive, and that's a program that was developed in Marin County at the Marin Abused Women's Services, which is a women's shelter. And so the program was designed with a women's experience and children's experience of men's violence. So it came from a very different perspective. When they developed the program back in the 80s, the early 80s, um, the women that were in the shelter there in Marin were like, we don't want to lose our husbands or our boyfriends. We want them to get help to stop their violence to us. So it wasn't like they wanted to end their relationship. They wanted to give the men some tools to change their behavior. And that's what the program was based on. Excuse me. So I went through that program for a year, went through probation, went through the courts, went through all the hoops that I had to go through, and came out the other side. And then I was invited to do some public speaking in the community in San Francisco about my experience of being a person that had caused harm in his relationship, and then going through a domestic violence program. And then what was that like for me, and what was it like today, after going through the program. So I started doing that. It was a big challenge for me because I had never been a good public speaker. I was always nervous, and my knees knocked, and I stuttered and had a lot of problems. But once I did it a few times, it got easier and easier. I felt like I was doing something to give back. In the Man Alive program, it's called the fourth stage, which is the restoration stage, which is giving back. So it was modeled on that restorative justice about going back and trying to heal some of the harm that I had caused to my relationship, to my family, to my community, by going and sharing my story. And I found that it was very useful. People came up to me after the presentation, talked to me. They asked how they could get, friends or relatives that needed help into the program. And so that's how it started for me. And I realized that I wasn't able to save my relationship or my marriage, but maybe I could help another man save his. Maybe I could help another woman or child avoid, further violence and further abuse and further trauma, if I could share my experience and what I gained from the program. And so I started going back to the group. I really missed the group, the support that I was receiving every week. I had gotten away from that for a couple of months, and I found that I really missed it and needed it. And so I went back once a week and started to train as a facilitator. And it took a year, and then I started to facilitate groups once a week. I continued to run my business, and then eventually lost my business in my divorce and filed bankruptcy and had all kinds of other issues. But eventually came out the other side, and I started to do this work. And I worked all over the Bay Area. I've worked in Marin and San Francisco and up in Sacramento and Yolo County. I've worked in many jails, and I've worked in a few prisons. I've worked in San Quentin. And all these years, it has been my honor to do this work and to touch other men and to share them, with them, my experience and my story, and to gain their trust and to gain, their ability to open up to me, to become vulnerable to me and share what they're going through. And in a lot of ways, I was able to just listen and and that's been the part of it that it's been, I guess the biggest gift and blessing for me is being able to listen to men's stories. I've heard hundreds, if not 1,000 stories of men that I've worked with over the years. And some of them I've been able to help, and some of them, I see them come back again and again. And I got to let that go. We started Men Creating Peace in 2007 here in Oakland. And I was invited to come to the Alameda County Domestic Violence Collaborative meeting for the first time with a good friend of mine. And that's how it started here in Alameda County. I started to talk to the people that were involved in the domestic violence, intimate partner violence field here. I met some of the attorneys. Kim Hunter was one of the people that I talked to early on and helped me to kind of, realize that there was a need for another type of men's group here. I went to probation and asked if they would be willing to allow me to start a new program, and they were resistant to it at first. And it took about 3 years before probation was willing to certify us. but we started, and Laney College gave us a start. That was, I just thank them so much for taking the chance on us and allowing us to have a classroom space to do the work. We started with no clients at all, just me and one of my friends named Tom Siepel, and we started it in a classroom at Laney College in March of
Nice.
2007. And we started to get clients coming to us from the collaborative, people that had heard about us in the collaborative, and other community members and community-based organizations and clergy and therapists started to send us clients. Other counties that I had worked with, men were being referred to our program for those counties. And we based our program on the Man Alive program that I had gone through, and a lot of the same core curriculum. But then we added to it. We added a whole lot of different things, different teaching modalities to it. And then it grew. And then eventually we got probation to certify us, and we started to get more referrals. And now we
Nice.
have 4 classes a week that we do on Zoom. We were doing 3 different locations each week, one in Berkeley, one at Laney, and one in San Leandro. But after COVID, we had to shut down for a couple of months and
Yeah.
then reopened on Zoom. So we're not sure what's in the future, but we have continued to hold groups and help men and be a resource for the community. And I'm so honored to continue to reach out and touch other folks through different platforms. And I'm appreciative for meeting you, and really appreciate the work that you're doing in the community, Ashanti. And I hope that you and I can work together to reach more men and more young men, especially, and do early intervention to try and
Yeah.
stem this tide of intimate partner violence and violence in general that men do.
Yeah. Well, let's take a breath right there, just in the fullness, just in the fullness of all that is, and all that you've done, and all that you're doing, and all that you're gonna do. And I definitely am excited about this conversation. I think, last night I had the opportunity to sit into one of the circles, and I would just tell you that was a really powerful experience. And I'm excited for you to. I think you when you came to the first workshop, I'm not sure if you made a mask then, but now we get to make one and we get to share it together. I think you shared a lot of things that people wouldn't know by looking at you, right? I think that's the
Right.
part of this idea about the mask is like when we look at people, we may notice some things on the outside, but there's so much that we don't know. But oftentimes our judgment of people is based on what we see when we see them, or even how we see them operate and how we see them act. And therefore, if that becomes our limited knowledge of them, then that becomes our judgment of them. But the story is so much more complex. The story is so much more complex, right? And I think, how do we begin to navigate that, right? And so I'm excited that we get to be in this conversation today. So, are you ready to make a mask?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. So, you have a piece of paper handy.
I do. I have paper right here.
Yeah. And as you were talking and your intro, I thought, you know what, I was gonna share a mask that I made the other day in Spanish, but I'm gonna make a new one. I'm gonna make a new one. Something called me to make a new one right now. So um on this piece of paper you have let's see, do I have another piece here? I'm gonna get a piece of paper here. There's 2 steps. Just fold the paper in half. So like horizontally. Fold the paper in half like that.
Can I just use 2 sides?
Like the front and back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a 3x5 card.
Well, it's sort of a 3 by 4. It's just a piece
Oh,
of
okay.
paper.
Okay. Let's just fold it in half because what we're gonna do is
Okay.
again, you know what? You can use the front and back. You can use the front and back. Go ahead. Let's do that. Let's do that. That works. That's how the original uh workshop was. It was the front and back. Oh, and see, it all happens for a reason. Everything's happening right now is happening for a reason. So let's do front and back, and I'm gonna show you once we share ours. I'm gonna show you a young man who showed who made a mask at one of our workshops, and it was truly um like not only powerful to read it, but every time I read it, I'm kind of struck again at kind of how much stuff that we hold back, and I think is going to be really telling to the work that you're doing. So let me find a card here.
Do you want me to draw a mask? Draw a picture of a mask?
Yeah. So the first step is to draw a mask. So your first step on the front side, we're going to use the sides representing the front and the back. Okay. So
Hmm.
since you're going to use the front, why don't you say um, the left side is going to be the front, or actually you're doing two different sides. So yeah, so the front and then the back. So let's call this side we're going to start on right now the front.
The
Just
masks of
write.
people, the masks that I want people to see.
Well, the first step is just to draw a mask.
Okay.
Before we write any words, we're
Okay.
just gonna take a minute and just draw something. Draw what you envision a mask looks like. Um, you know, it could be simple. It could be complex. Just let whatever comes to you come to you. Do you like drawing?
Not particularly.
Okay, all
I
right.
have a different artistic talent. I'm a floral artist, so I create
Okay,
beautiful works of art with flowers. I've been
interesting.
doing that for, wow, almost 40 years. Can't
Well, that
believe
means
that.
that means that you have a definitely a understanding of color connections and arrangements. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Right on. How did you get into that? How did you get into the floral industry?
Yeah, it's a long story, brother.
Oh, okay, well, we'll say
It was in college. You know, I
all
was
right.
looking for a career to do a report on. I had a class in college my senior year called career exploration, and I
Okay.
was going to explore the cruise industry. I was going to, that's what my dream was, to go in and work on a cruise ship and sail around the world.
Mm,
And that was just before the internet. So I couldn't find much information when I first
mm,
started about the cruise industry. But I, um, I had worked in a flower shop in my senior year of high school as a delivery driver, and I learned a little bit about the flower industry, not much. But
mm,
my boss and I stayed in touch, and he actually suggested it. He goes, "Why don't you check out the flower industry? It's such a big industry, way
mm,
different than just this little mom and pop shop that we have here in Florida." And so I did, and in New Orleans is where I was going to school. I was going to school at the University of Loyola in New Orleans,
okay.
and I found lots and lots and lots of places that I could gather information to in order for me to do my report. Wholesalers, nurseries,
Mm,
different florists that I interviewed. So I had a set of questions, and I got an A on the class. And
okay.
lo and behold, one of the flower shops I had interviewed was hiring around the holidays and said, "Hey, we'd love to take you on. Would you like to come work with us?" And that's how it started.
Oh man, right on.
That's how it started. And that flower shop in New Orleans, I met a woman from Berkeley, California, and she was the one that, you know, first told me to, pick up the knife and follow my lead, and I'll show you how to do this. And the rest
Mm,
is history. She convinced me to move out to California, and convinced me to continue to pursue that field. And it
mm,
took me to Hawaii. It took me to Australia, New Zealand. Um, yeah, I've really
great,
enjoyed the industry. But
great,
I got out of it several years ago. I don't do it for a living any longer, but I still do it for my church. I do flowers for my church and special occasions, and every once in a while, someone will hire me as a freelancer to do
okay,
big projects like weddings or big parties. But
right on.
it's not part of who I am anymore that much. I try to keep flowers in my house every week, so that
Nice.
still keeps me bringing in beautiful things into the house.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Um, well, let's do the math. You have a mask.
I got
Don't
it.
show it yet. Don't show it yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna write the words now. So
Okay.
on the front of the mask, which is the where you drew the mask, I want you to write three words that are qualities of yourself that you gladly let the world see,
Okay.
and then three words or three qualities or characteristics you gladly let the world see. So write those on the left side. Well, you're doing the front on the front of the mask.
Okay.
Okay. So. Um, Okay. And now we're going to turn it over. So you're going to do on the back now. The back. And the back is different than the front. You don't need to draw anything on the back. But on the back, you're going to write three words or phrases that are qualities of yourself that you often don't talk about. You may not let people see, but three that you feel comfortable sharing with us today. So, three things you normally don't talk much about. And those are the words on the back of the mask. Okay. Okay. Well, mine was inspired by your intro, so I'm gonna. All right. Do you want to go first? We're gonna do front and
No,
then
you can
then
go
back and back.
first.
Let me go first. Okay. All right. Well, let me show the mask. This is what I drew. This is the front. I'm not sure what that. It just happened to call me today, and these are the words I picked for today: dedicated, passionate, and caring. Um, I think when I think about like how I definitely right now in my work it's so intense. There's so much things going on. So like I'm clearly I think for anyone who knows me, I'm dedicated to the work. Um, passionate, like I would say passionate slash intense, right? Like I think sometimes I'm intense for people, just because I'm trying to just get stuff done. I'm like kind of moving like at a faster speed sometimes, and I have to like sometimes slow myself down because I'll be like saying something really fast. I think sometimes fast can seem like it's rushed and it's not taken with care. So sometimes I have to be careful that I'm not going so fast that I'm like giving like incomplete instructions or if I'm giving somebody a direction on how to move forward with something that I'm not like leaving out pieces because I'm just moving so fast. But that's the front. And caring. I think caring is one that I've only recently started like writing on the paper, even though I think I try and do it. I think sometimes being so dedicated and intense and passionate sometimes could feel sometimes distant, right? Could feel like bottom line focused only. But I truly have a heart for people. So that's the front. Dedicated, passionate, and caring. And so you want to show your front of yours?
Sure.
All right.
Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah.
So my mask, I got a little SF Giants hat on. That's me.
Nice.
Big Giants fan.
Nice.
And the words I chose were generous, dependable, and open hearted.
Hmm.
That's that's the mask I show people. You know, that's the
Yeah.
side of me. I'm very generous with my time, and just generous in general to my family, to my friends, to
Mm,
the clients I serve. Um, you know, to people that ask for help. You know,
mm,
I want to help people. I guess that's part of who I am, a big part of who I am, or certainly a big part of who I show people on the outside. Dependable, I follow through with what I say I'm going to do. And if I don't, I feel really bad about that. I beat myself up if I'm not able to follow through or not able to deliver on something that I've said I would do.
yeah.
That was one of the ways that I really connected with the men in jails and prisons that I worked with. Was that they were so distrustful of the system and people coming in and out of the jail that I was able to connect with them and gain their trust by showing up and then by following through with what they asked me to do, and many times helping them with getting into a program or helping them with assistance with their attorney or in some other way, just and sometimes just listening, just hanging out with them, coming back. That was another thing that was a big part of the work I was doing in jails and prisons, was that I came back every week or every other week or every day. So
Mm,
dependable, and certainly I bring that to my work also, and the work that I do now and the work I used to do. My father gave me a very strong work ethic. When I was a kid,
mm,
I started delivering papers at 11 years old. So I had to get up every morning at 5:30 and deliver papers. And I did that for probably 5 or 6 years. And then, all the way through my work life. It's part of who I am, dependable. And then
right.
open hearted. So that's, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I cry easily. I
Mm,
talk um, from my heart a lot. Um, I'm I'm very loving and caring, um, and yeah, that's the part of me that comes forth, that comes out, and people connect with that open heartedness of my soul.
yeah. I love the word open hearted. I think I have not used that word before on my mask. But I like that. I think it's we have a quote in our work when we say the longest distance that most people travel is the 18 inches between their head and their heart.
Absolutely.
And I think that how do we get into our hearts and let it be open, and knowing that if you open it, it has a potential of getting shifted around and punched in, and and hurt. I mean, that's for lack of a better word, it can be hurt or broken, right?
Yeah.
But how to not become the broken hearted person that never lets it open again. So thank you for sharing that one. I appreciate it. All right, here's the back. Now, this one is feels intense right now. I don't know why, but and I'm probably going to talk about one of them, but this is it's inspired. So here it is. I wrote. Let me see if it's clear. I wrote caused harm, childhood abuse, and domestic abuse in home as a child. Um. Uh. Yeah. Wow. And when you think about when you talked about this idea of like when you looked at yourself and you said, "Oh, I've been doing this my whole life," and I think only recently I went to a men's retreat and someone asked me a question. I was talking about we were talking about growing up and um when my mom got married, I was like 12 or 13. She married a guy. We didn't get along a whole lot. He I think he was really mean, like really almost to the verge of being like evil to me and my siblings who were not his kids. And I remember um him and he had a son by my mom. And I think what I realized in a lot of my behaviors as a young teenager. I mean, I left home when my brother was like 4 or 5, so I went to college. But like, I think this man was really being mean to me, verbally abusive, like just attempted sometimes to be physically abusive, and I just took it out on my little brother, like his and I realized that my brothers and I relationship, I used to blame on him, on my mom's husband. I used to blame on him that my brother and our relationship was so off. Well, because he created this adversity in the home, and I realized as this past week that I was 12, 13. I was young too, but I took out what he dished to me on my little brother, and I think that our relationship was, and now I have to make amends for that with my brother. And we're adults now, so we're our relationship is now starting to grow, and it had, and, for it took a long time for the journey of our relationship, and I realized that I can't blame his father anymore for how I treated him. I have to own, even though I was a young kid, 12, 13, 14. I still have a responsibility now, and I realized what I was doing to go back and try and clean that up. And I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know that. Right? I think I could easily like keep blaming this abusive, stepfather in the home without taking part of my responsibility that I was sometimes mean and sometimes passing on what I was getting, the harm I was getting, the hurt I was getting, I was causing hurt too. So that's the one that is resonating the most with me. And I'm not going to speak too much about the other two, childhood abuse, and then domestic abuse at home, and that's at the hands of that stepfather. So yeah,
Well,
I that
I'm going
that
to
all,
encourage you to take a breath, man, and
yeah, for
feel
real.
that for a minute. That was deep. That was deep, Ashanti. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was just going to share a different one. So it all happened right this moment. So thank you for being able to name it, for me being able to name it out loud. I mean, on this, I mean, I've just recently named it in a space of men doing men's work, but now to name it out loud is, it means I have some still more work to do around it, but I'm excited about that.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
have the courage to do some work around it. And that's a huge step in
Yeah.
that healing process, brother.
Thank you.
Huge step. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, my side that I don't like to show people, and these are just a few words that I came up with, mean spirited, procrastination, and then
Mm.
insecure, afraid, scared.
Mm.
Those are the other side of my mask.
Yeah. Mm.
Mean spirited. I have this side of me that can be very revengeful. Um, the work that we do in the Men Creating Peace program, and it comes from the Man Alive tradition, is that in the work, the very early stages of the work, we name our hitman, our violent side, our abusive side, and words that describe how we become when we become
Mm.
abusive. And mine is the justified, vengeful equalizer. So it's a mean.
Oh.
He's mean. He gets revenge. If you mess with me, I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to hurt you. So it's
Mm.
and I get biblical, right? It's an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You're going to feel the pain that you inflicted on me, and sometimes you're
Mm.
going to feel it worse.
Oh
And
man.
that hitman side of me, that justified, vengeful equalizer, has gotten me into a lot of trouble, and that's a very
Mm.
angry side of me, and it comes from a lot of hurt that I suffered as a child and as a young adult and teenager growing up. Um, I was always small, kind of. It felt like I was one of the smaller kids in the class, and I
Mm.
was the only boy in the family, in between two girls. Um, my dad and my mom split up when I was 15. Dad was working all the time. My mother was very critical and harsh, and had some mental health issues that were undiagnosed, and she never got treatment for. So that was very difficult growing up. And when my parents split up, my mom really took out all her aggression and energy and anger towards my dad on me, because I was the only boy in the family. And eventually my sisters got it too, but I got the brunt of it, especially early on. So that's also part of that justified. I feel justified when I get abusive. There's a reason for it. I have excuses for why I get violent and why I get revengeful, which is
Yeah.
BS, right? That's all
Mm.
my own internal dialogue in my head that tells me it's okay to be violent and abusive.
Yeah.
And the procrastination side, that's something I've just dealt with all my life. Just trying to do too many things, trying to tackle too many chores or take on too many tasks. Um, and then things that get dropped by the wayside, or things that I decide to prioritize, and then I don't concentrate on finishing things that
Yeah.
I start. A lot of times it takes me a while to finish something I started, like cleaning up my room, or maybe writing a report, or creating a manual, or getting ready for a presentation. These are some of the
Yeah.
things that I put off, and I'll get to it, and
Mhm.
I got something else comes up, or a phone call, or some other crisis, or fire comes up, and I've got to put it out, and that has to do with that takes my attention away from doing stuff. Um, Exercising, taking better care of myself. That's something that I've procrastinated a lot of my life,
Yeah.
and only recently, over the last couple of years, have I done more to do that. To take better care of that. But that is something that I've really procrastinated on. My daughter was just visiting from New York, and she is in her early 30s, and she was like, "Daddy, I really think that you need to start working at a with a trainer, or with someone that can instruct you on how to take better care of yourself." Or she invited me to start going to a yoga class on a regular, either online or in person.
Yeah.
But something that I'm doing consistently with some instruction, on taking better care of myself. So I'm open to that, I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna procrastinate that. I made an agreement with her that I would start that very soon. So
Mm.
so within the
Nice.
next couple of weeks, I'm gonna start doing that.
Nice.
And then the insecure me, the scared, the little boy inside me that's
Yeah.
frightened. That's a part of me that I don't like to show other people. I talked about how terrifying it was for me to do public speaking. That was extremely hard for me to get over, to stand up in front of a group of people and share my
Yeah.
story, or to talk in general about anything. You know, even to this day, I struggle with it. That
Yeah.
that scared
Yeah.
side of me, that little boy inside who doesn't think he's going to do it right, or he's going to make a mistake, or he's going to stumble, or
Hmm.
he's going to stutter, or he's going to
Mhm.
something he's going to do is wrong, and that's what everybody's going to focus on, is
Yeah.
my mistake. or what I didn't do right, or what I didn't complete.
Yeah.
And that's a side of me, or not knowing how to do something, and really, really, really keeps me stuck. One of the things I can share that is really one of the hardest things for me to get over now is technology. How to do technology, how to utilize technology, how to create a calendar, how to do Zoom calls, how to use all the different functions in the Zoom call, um,
Yeah.
just how to get up online and how to research something. My daughter, got me on Netflix the other day for the first time. I'd never been on Netflix, and she's like, "What? You ought to do this. Check it out. This is how you do it." And she kind of walked me through it, and again, it's that scared side of me, that insecure side of me that keeps me
Yeah.
stuck with doing certain things, especially
Yeah.
around technology. But you know, doing public speaking, doing this podcast is scary
Mm.
for me. I've got to say,
Mm.
opening myself up and being real and exposing myself, in a very
Yeah.
public forum is
Yeah.
scary. It's going out on the skinny limb for me. So thanks for being patient.
Man, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I mean, so much of what you said resonated, and I really want to come back to that Hitman. That was a powerful thing I heard in the session, but also like, and your Hitman sounds like a twin to mine. Like, like, and I think, oh my god. So can you? But, okay, first, thank you for sharing the back of that. Like, I want to talk about the insecurity. There's a story coming up for me around that procrastination. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So thank you, and I think for men out here who, for whoever listens to this, I mean, I think we all may have a hitman in our life that comes out when we feel. And maybe you can tell me more. How does a hitman show up in our life, and where does he hide at?
Well, the concept that we share in the work, in the Men Creating Peace program, came from the early work that they did in Man Alive,
Mm,
around that concept of a belief system that we all men
mm,
grow up, and women too, right? With the
yeah,
roles that we're supposed to take on as men, the shoulds and shouldn'ts. A man should, a
yeah.
man shouldn't. A man should protect his family. A man shouldn't get disrespected. You know,
Mm,
a man should be able to provide for his family. A man shouldn't be broke, right? Those are just
mm,
a couple. And then a woman, right? What's a woman's role? A woman should be nurturing and loving and submissive.
yeah,
A woman shouldn't be disrespectful. A woman shouldn't be you shouldn't flirt with other men if you're in a
mm,
committed relationship.
mm,
A woman shouldn't embarrass her man or call him out,
mm,
especially in front of his friends or in front of his children, right? So these are
yeah.
just some of the male role belief system. We all grew up with a belief system. We were all taught this belief system
That's
through
right.
media, through sports, through music, through films that we saw, or TV programs that we saw, through our older brothers and sisters, if we had them, or cousins, or uncles, or grandparents, or
Yeah.
everyone that had influence over us. Even the you know our religion, if we had a particular religious practice that
Mm,
influenced us, about
yeah.
the roles that men are supposed to play and the roles that women are supposed to play,
That's right.
and this dynamic of the inferior over or superior over inferior. Men are taught to play the superior role, and
Mm,
women are taught to play the inferior role. And we know that today that's changing
yeah.
dramatically, um,
Yeah.
in so many ways, and you know and there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still such a tremendous inequality when it comes to men and women, and the way that men treat women.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's a challenge to that belief system. That's what that. And you asked the question last night: what is fatal peril? Well, fatal peril, that
Mm,
means deadly danger. It's when my image of who I see myself as a man gets challenged. That male role
mm,
belief system that I've been indoctrinated in, and I've taken on, and I've been programmed to believe that that's the way
yeah.
it should be and the way it shouldn't be. When that gets challenged, that's the moment of fatal peril. And that's when my hitman gets activated. It's like the
Mm,
go button. It's like, oh shit, you now you've crossed me. Now you've
mm,
disrespected me. Now you've really going to see who who you've messing with. And
Yeah.
that's the hitman. That side of me that comes up when I get challenged, when my belief system gets challenged, when I get disrespected, when I feel
Yeah.
ashamed or embarrassed or less than, or not good enough. That's when he comes out, and he gets defensive, and he gets aggressive, and he gets
Yeah.
mean, and he gets violent, and and
Yeah.
and and then other people start to back down, and he reasserts himself as a dominant role or the superior role. And we can see that in sports, we can see
Yeah.
that in business world, we can see that in education, we can see that
Yeah.
in the family dynamic. Look at you and your brother.
Yeah.
Who's top dog here? I'm going to show
Mm.
you. I'm your big
Yeah.
brother, and you don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Or you're going to
Yeah.
get some of this ass whooping, right? And again, I would imagine your stepfather took on that same role of, I'm going to teach Ashanti. He doesn't have a
Mm-hmm.
father, but I want to show him what a father is like.
That's right.
I'm gonna pound it into him, right?
That's right. That's
I
right.
don't I don't know any more about your dynamic with him, but it
Yeah.
just sounds like there was some abusive behavior that
Yeah.
that was traumatizing, that had some real negative impact on you, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that came out with your aggressive behavior or your abusive behavior towards your little brother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what the hitman is about, is in helping the men to identify that and name that
Yeah.
side of us.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I can out him. I can bring him out in the public, because the hitman does
Mm.
his work in private. He doesn't want the people to see that. He doesn't want his family
Mm.
members to see that. He doesn't want the people he goes to work with to see that. He certainly
Yeah.
doesn't want the folks that he goes to church or synagogue with, or temple with, to see
Yeah.
that side of him. He wants to show that other mask, right?
That's
It's
right.
another mask that I wear. That I'm a
That's
good
right.
guy, nice family man, and everything. I got
Yeah.
my shit together, and everything's
Yeah.
cool.
That's
But
right.
you wouldn't want to get me upset. You wouldn't want to cross me. You wouldn't want to disrespect me, because then you see a whole different side of me come out.
Was like the Incredible Hulk.
Like the Incredible Hulk. Exactly. That's a good analogy. A good
Yeah.
analogy. So
Don't
that's
make
the
me
work
angry.
work
You
we
won't like
do
me
in
when
that
I'm
first
angry.
stage, right? It's identifying anger and what happens when we get angry, and that belief
Yeah.
system, and kind of educating and helping the men to realize, that they were taught this,
Yeah.
and now you can unlearn this.
That's right.
Violent behavior does not have to be part of your vocabulary, or part of your belief system, or part of who you are. And in second stage, we identify the authentic self, our true self, our real self, that little
Mm.
boy inside that we had locked up, after
Yeah.
we were hurt for the first time, or
That's
we were
right.
told, early on, 4 or 5 years old, you know, be a man, grow up. I watched one of your
Mm.
videos last night, and
Mm.
and you had a coach that from the NFL that was interviewed, and he put it so eloquently about
Yeah.
those first couple of words that men are taught: be a man, grow
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
act like a man,
That's
grow
right.
some balls,
That's
you
right.
know,
That's
suck
right.
it up, play through the pain. All those messages that we get taught as a little boy to stuff our authentic self, our true self, and
That's right.
take on this mask, this pretend self, this hitman, because it protects us from
That's
our
right.
vulnerability. It protects us, as you said,
Mm.
from getting hurt. Because when I'm open hearted and vulnerable and honest, then I lay myself open to getting hurt.
That's right.
And
That's
and it
right.
takes a lot of courage to take off that mask, to take off that hitman disguise, and
Yeah.
to really show everyone else my authentic or true self, because
That's
I'm
right.
being vulnerable. I'm putting myself out there to get wounded or hurt.
Mm. So the hitman is almost a protector of the authentic self.
Exactly. Good
Mm.
analogy, Ashanti. It is a protector.
Huh. Yeah.
I take on that hitman role to protect myself, to
Like,
protect that little boy inside.
yeah. Yeah. Ooh wee. Ooh wee. Ooh. Okay. 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 Listen, here's what I know. I know that if more of our young people were taught about how that operates in their life, I think we would eliminate so much of what we see happening, because sometimes they're unaware. It pops out and they're justified. Oh no, he made me mad. That's why I did it. That's why I said it. That's why, like, it always becomes justified. In Oakland, we see so much happening right now. So many murders happening in Oakland of thing, and I don't know all the details, but I just know a lot of this. Oh well, he did that to my people. I'm gonna do that to his people. I'm gonna do that, and it becomes this back and forth hunt for I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. Right? you challenge me, or you doubt me, or you think you know more, like all the ways it shows up, and how you describe that, and it's just so powerful. And I think I can't wait for I can't wait for us to do more of this work together. I think that our young men in our communities need to know this. I mean, here's what we're seeing right now. Let me tell you what we're seeing in schools right now. I've gotten calls from several districts and schools. There's a lot of sexual harassment going on in schools today. A lot of fighting, a lot of violence, but a lot of handsy stuff going on in our schools right now, and more than before,
Mm-hmm.
more than before. And I think that there's lots of people have lots of theories around it. I have my own theories around it, but I do know, and as we saw during the pandemic, there's been an uptick in intake of pornography in our young men's lives, and the data shows it's mostly young men. That's what the data shows.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go look up the data. You can go look up the sources of where that comes from. And I think that this idea that women are our property, right? Women are there to serve and to be used by us. And I think um, that idea gets ingrained and gets locked in, and that they're there at the pleasure of you, or as me as a man. They're there just a pleasure to fulfill a pleasure piece of me, fulfill a missing part of me, fulfill whatever that, however you want to define it. But I think
Numb the pain.
numb the pain.
Numb the pain. I mean,
Numb the pain.
they're looking for that. I mean, and again, it has to do with that belief system, early
Man.
on, where we're taught, that you can
Mm.
only become a man when you lose your virginity. You can
Ooh-wee.
only become a man when you start to have sex, and then you get props, right, for having sex with multiple partners, and then you objectify women more, and then it's like then they really are they become just kind of expendable income, expendable commodities. That
And it
okay, I'm
starts
going to get
younger.
this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this, and if I can get
That's
that, I
right.
can get this.
That's right.
If she
That's right.
likes me, then I got four women that like me, and it just boosts our ego. Talk about your hitman. It just
Mm.
pumps your hitman up. To think that you're the shit, you're the Mac, you're the daddy,
That's
you
right.
got it going on, and then when you have a child, it's
Yes.
like
Yes.
okay, now it's like that's little mini me, right? And now I'm more of a man because now not only am I having sex, but now I've
Yeah.
created another human being, but they don't
Yeah.
even know what to do with that responsibility, and that's the sad thing. Kids having kids
That's right.
and not being able to educate them and talk to them about that. It's crazy. Our society is so far behind with
Mm.
regards to sex education and prevention of teenage pregnancy. I
Yeah.
mean, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. She's a therapist, and she
Mm.
was like, in Denmark, they start when at the age of 6 giving
Mm.
children sex education,
Mm.
and they have one of the lowest rates of teenage pregnancy in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
Giving them education,
Yeah.
helping them to prevent STDs, helping them prevent unwanted pregnancies, helping to learn how to have a healthy sexual relationship with someone.
That's right.
We know that young men and women are going to have sex. It happens. We're programmed to procreate. We're programmed to have sex.
That's
It's
right.
part of it. It's part of connecting with other human beings. But how
Yeah.
to do it in a way that's loving and caring,
That's right.
and gentle and respectful
And
is
respectful.
what we're not teaching our young men and women,
That's right.
especially our young men.
That's right. And I think, yeah, and what we see here I'm in Oakland, what we see in a lot of our young men we talk to, this idea is you're expected to have sex young. You're expected to know all about it. You're expected, and having one, then oh well, you don't got two, and like you talked about, the prowess becomes like, oh, now I can prove to all the other young men on the yard that I'm actually really cool, because not only am I dating that one, I'm dating another one, I'm dating another, and that becomes the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there becomes a dance between, oh no, but you can't date that one because I already went with that one, and therefore then it becomes this competition, like, oh, you broke the code. You went against the code. You don't love her, you don't even like her, but now I she's off limits because you have now mark your territory, right?
Right, right.
And therefore becomes a. And then how many fights come in cools
Oh
around
yeah,
that? Around
absolutely.
oh he trying to date my ex, blah blah blah. Like all the norms that are expected that you just don't do. You just don't do it. It's just a part of the code. Oh, okay. And where those rules come from? Well, they got passed down from somebody who said this is the way it has to be. So I'm gonna keep spreading my territory so no one can like almost becomes illogical. When you talk to them about it, they realize how illogical some of their thought processes are, but they've been bought in and they have
Yeah.
to reprogram themselves to be like, hmm, oh, interesting. And you imagine you help them give them language to say, well, how are you showing up like that? Tell me about that. Like I had one young man a couple of years ago posted his friends thought he was gay. They were calling him gay. He posted himself having sex with a girl online. Uh, uh, okay, brother. Um, I understand your desire to prove that you're not homosexual, but you are now about to find yourself locked up in a jail because because of what you are doing now to prove to people who you don't even care about, who don't care about you, and now you're about to put through your life. Your life is now in jeopardy for the rest of your life. And I think that's only one example, but you probably can look up many examples of young people who have tried to prove to other people certain things and
Hmm.
has absolutely destroyed their own well-being and future, you know?
It's about
Um,
trying to prove that you're a man,
that's right. That's right.
and instead of just being a teenager or being a little boy or being
Ooh,
just a human being.
that's right.
It's about trying to prove to everybody that I'm a man. I'm
I'm a
going to
man.
show you. I'm going to
I'm
prove it to you.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
And that's where the hitman comes in, and
Man.
violence it goes hand in hand with trying to prove that you're a man, so that people don't get over on you. So that you don't get bullied or you don't get accused of being a girl or get
Yeah.
accused of being gay or get accused of being a mama's boy. Was one of the things you
Hmm.
shared last night,
Yeah.
or shared in one of your videos that I watched.
That's right.
That's the worst thing that you can be called, a mama's boy
Yeah.
or a gay person or
Yeah.
a little girl, and again, that's some older man, some older boy
Yeah.
telling you this,
That's
and
right.
hurting your feelings and
That's
making you
right.
feel embarrassed and ashamed, of who you really are. Okay, I'm a man that can be effeminate. I work with
That-
flowers, for God's sakes. I mean,
that-
it's like, what? My friends were like, "What? Are you gay now? Or are you living in San Francisco and you work with flowers?" I'm like, "No, I'm
yeah.
not."
Yeah.
I work with a lot of gay men. I have a lot of gay men that are my friends, close friends.
Yeah.
That I love them and I
Yeah.
care about them. I go out with them and I hang out with them and
Yeah.
have them in my home and have my kids around them. I was like, I'm proud of that.
That's right.
But no, I don't have to be gay and be typecast because I'm a florist.
That's right.
That
That's
doesn't
right.
identify me as gay. And
That's
and
right.
what's wrong with being gay? I mean, it's okay to be gay. Again, it's like that male role belief system.
That's
You
right.
can't be gay.
That's
You can't
right.
be attracted to another man. That's
That's right.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's so twisted. And men get so upset with that. And they, who they really are, they can't really be because
That's
they're
right.
going to get bullied, or they're going to get beat up, or they're going to get
Mm,
embarrassed or shamed for who they really are.
that's right. And it happens all the time.
It's sad.
It
It's
happens. And
so
it
sad.
starts younger and younger and
Younger
younger
and younger and
and
younger.
younger.
I mean, to the point where young boys are called gay and they don't even know what that means.
That's right. Oh, I had a parent, second grade parent. Her kid, him and his best friend have lunch together every day. They sit at the table. They're right next to each other. They're sharing lunch. And one kid, a bigger kid, came over and said, "Oh, you two are gay." And this kid, second grade, didn't even know what the word meant. But he knew he went home that day and he knew it didn't feel good. He knew he felt something
Mm-hmm.
was wrong with what that boy had said. He asked his mom, "What does that mean? What does gay mean?" And his mom's like, "Huh?" And he told her the story. And the mom was like, "How do I protect my son from wanting them to be the most authentic self and have a best friend that they share lunch and they sit so close there, they're like one, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they begin to like push each other away because I can't get too close. I can't sit close to you. I can't share lunch with you because now there's a title that this means, and it doesn't feel good. Even without even knowing what it meant, it know it didn't feel good. And I think that's the work that we have, you know?
I
That's the
think
work we
men
have.
want to be connected to other men.
Oh, I
And
do.
in other cultures and other countries, men walk down the street arm in arm, with their arms around each other. They kiss each other on the cheek. They hug each other. They're affectionate with each other. And
Yeah.
they're not accused of being homosexual.
Yeah.
It's okay to be affectionate with another man. We want to connect with other men. To
Yeah.
have those close friendships and kinships.
Yeah.
But then when someone calls us or attacks us, and challenges our manhood around that, it's like, oh, I can't be your friend anymore, or I
There
can't
it
be
is.
close to you, or I can't give you a hug anymore.
Back off. That's right. That's right. Oh man, Devin. Oh man. I think we could go on forever. I think we may have to like maybe one idea we could think of. And I know that one of the men who mentioned he loves podcasts, maybe we could do like a we've been talking about a part of a show where we're gonna do like have 4 minutes at the same time doing the mass together. So I think we're gonna maybe this would be a really cool thing we should like think about. Like we're gonna do one of those. Whoa, sorry, something just happened. I don't know what happened. Well, welcome to the Taking Out the Mask podcast. You never know what's going to happen. I just heard something slam. I can't even see the front door from where I'm at. But I heard the door slam. So, um, yeah. Well, thank you for being a part of this conversation, and I
Thank you for
appreciate
inviting
you.
me, Ashante, and thank
Oh
you for the
man,
work, the courageous work that you're doing with the young men here in Alameda County and Oakland and Hayward, and the lives that you were touching. And
thank you,
I
brother.
just, I'm so grateful, and I feel so blessed to have gotten to know you a little bit, and appreciative of what you do, because you're touching these men and these young men and these young boys, and you're encouraging them to be different and better,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to walk into their greatness.
That's right. That's
Don't
right.
sell themselves short. And it's so easy to get trapped in that, selling yourself short.
That's right.
And because of whatever reason, I don't have a dad, right?
Yeah,
Or the
yeah,
color of my skin, or I don't do so well in school, or I'm not that smart, or I'm not
yeah.
that athletic, so I'm less than, and I sell
Mm,
myself short. And that's the encouragement that we need to give these young men, that don't sell yourself short, you know, shoot for the stars.
yeah.
You can be anything you want to be.
Man, thank you for that message. How about you tell folks who may be interested in taking one of your courses or how they can get in touch with you? Just share with us the information, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes. But tell folks how they can learn more about what you're doing and the work that you're up to.
So they can certainly find us on our website, mencreatingpeace.org. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and those social media networks. Email me, call me. I mean, my contact information is on our website. We have Zoom classes on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, um, from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. And we hope to go back to face sometime next year, maybe at Laney College again,
Nice.
and doing kind of a hybrid. Some classes face to face and some classes still on Zoom, because I think it can reach a larger audience.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to encourage people, if they're not comfortable doing a group, if they're self-referred, they're thinking about the fact that they've got some abusive behavior, or they've had some problems in their relationship due to their anger or their aggression, that they can work with me one-on-one. That I do provide that service, and I work with folks around their schedule, around my schedule. We work once a week, an hour a week. I give them an assignment. They take it. We work out of the same curriculum that we're working in the groups, and we go step by step, a more intensive one-on-one. That's an option. And the other is that we're doing more community outreach, things like this podcast, collaborating with groups like yourself, and other community organizations, to get the
Yeah.
word out about intimate partner violence, and about how to get help for it, what to look for, how to help someone. You don't always have to get law enforcement involved. We don't always have to get the judicial system involved,
Yeah.
or CPS or social services involved. That there are ways and the resources out there that can help people. And so that's another big part of where we're trying to pivot to, is to do more community outreach and get to a larger population segment of our population, and to really, to also target different communities, and cultural sensitivity, and to work in those communities, either, spiritual communities or social communities or cultural communities, to get the message out, to say that, there is help available. And if there's not, let's design something. Let's work to create something in your community that helps your community members. But that early intervention that we talked about, and the work that you're doing, I think is so important. And that's a language I have a hard time speaking. So I'm much more comfortable working with adult men. But again, it's that collaboration with folks that are already doing it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I've got an interesting curriculum that I'm willing to share, but I'm always open to growing and changing and learning and metamorphosizing, changing into a butterfly.
There we go.
However we can touch people.
Well, Devon, I want to say thank you for being here. I want to appreciate you for the work you're doing, and I'm hoping I've gotten a bunch of notes, and I've just gotten inspired all over again. And so, thank you, and we look forward. We'll have all this information in the show notes so people can find you there. And we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you, Ashanti. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you bringing me on. Take care. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, brother. Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Editing, videography is also by Ryan Louie. Graphics by Kelly Wong. And a special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Kevin Romero. And I'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast. As we hit this 1-year anniversary, we hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask experience. And we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and share. And we look forward to us continuing to offer conversations that matter. Take care. See you soon.